Alright, so let's move on to the essay question. This is a 60 marker, though you can easily treat it as a 20 marker even, or even as a 24 marker, because I have developed my answers to quite a lot of depth, so you can easily satisfy 20 marks or even up to 24 marks if you answer it in such a way. Okay, so the question is to discuss the likely effectiveness of expansionary fiscal and monetary policies as a as means of closing the output gap. Okay, so if you have watched my earlier two videos, you guys will probably know what question I'm on. It's about the output gap. It's from the financial crisis of 2008. Like, you're supposed to employ certain instruments or play a certain way to close the output gap. But yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, as far as the exam is concerned. Anyhow, so you are supposed to evaluate the effectiveness of expansionary both fiscal policy and monetary policies, and both of them are mentioned in the extract. So let's begin with the answer. I'm assuming you guys probably know what fiscal and monetary policies are, obviously, and if you don't, then you can easily, just brush upon the definitions. However, I did not mention the definition in my answer. I could have easily done that, and those could have been easy to knowledge marks, but I did not do that in my answer. As you can see, I start off right away by mentioning that these can be quite effective, but I don't mention that what they are exactly. You should probably take a different approach and explain what you mean by a fiscal policy and monetary policy, because those are definitions, and definitions can earn you easy knowledge marks, and those are crucial. Get as many knowledge marks as you can wherever possible, as well as application marks. The hardest marks are the analysis marks and the evaluation marks. You should not drop any marks on knowledge and application. Those are just simple marks. Pick them up wherever you can. Anyway, let's begin. Expansionary fiscal and monetary policies, in other words, reflationary demand side policies, so that's a term, reflationary demand side policies, can be quite effective at closing an output gap, particularly an output gap brought about by a fall in aggregate demand rather than a fall in aggregate supply, as is the case with the world economy and the UK. So I'm not only just mentioning that it is effective, but I'm also mentioning that it is effective, especially in this case where the demand has fallen, aggregate demand has fallen. You see, because both expansionary fiscal and monetary policies are reflationary demand side policies. Demand side policies increase your demand. They're not supply side policies. Therefore, it is even more applicable in this case. And you have to mention that. If you do, then that's an automatic, easy, say, an analysis mark. Because you are linking two different thoughts brought about by a fallen aggregate demand rather than a fallen aggregate supply. Okay, as is the case with the world economy, and that is an application. You see, just subtle points, but I want to give myself an application mark here. So overall, I say this is paragraph. This is just an introductory paragraph, and I'd give myself 2K. Could be 3, but I said 2 is fine. Anyway, diagram. Obviously, that is crucial. I mean, if you are doing an essay question, diagram is cheap, 4 marks or 3 marks or even 5 marks. First of all, let's begin the paragraph, because the diagram is referred there anyway. So the diagram shows the world economy operating at equilibrium E, where the short-run aggregate supply and aggregate demand. Okay, so these are both abbreviations. That's short-run aggregate supply and that is aggregate demand. You should probably mention the entire term rather than using abbreviations, but that's what I did anyway. I'm not quite sure about whether there any marks will be detracted because of this, but I mean, it's just going to show that that you know the terms. So I said probably examiner will be completely fine with it. Anyway, where the short-run aggregate supply and aggregate demand intersect at a point inverse of the long-run aggregate supply. This is this. Okay, that's the long-run aggregate supply, but currently you are operating here, which is clearly inefficient. In other words, the economy is producing a real national output of Q. Okay, so I'm incorporating my answer, sorry, my diagram into the answer. So that is an additional mark. You can, I could have just left it up there, you know. I mean, I'd say it's probably self-explanatory and everything, but it's better to not do that. It's just better to just explain it, even though it may seem to you that it is quite obvious. You just got to, you know, get the diagram in to your answer any way you can. What has the potential to produce a real national output of Q2, hence a negative output gap exists. And this part right from here to here, that's the output gap, okay? This difference. Anyhow, so that's the diagram, and there's the incorporation of the diagram into my answer. That is a total of 7 or 6 marks, easy. 6 marks are easy, could even be 7. It's 4 for the diagram. I'll explain why 4. I've shown the difference in the price and the difference in the output, okay? This difference and this difference. So that's 2 marks, okay? That's 1 mark here. That's 1 mark here, okay? I'm not gonna write this down. So there's 1 mark over there, and short on area supply and long on area supply, there's a differentiation between these two. So that's 2 marks. Aggregate demand shift, okay, that's 3 marks. New equilibrium, all equilibrium is 4 marks. Output gap, that's 5 marks. Okay, so there's 5 diagram marks. I say 5 diagram marks, 5D, and 2 marks for incorporating it. So this entire part is 2 marks. Okay, 2 KASI. So 5 plus 2, that's 7 total marks, just because you drew a diagram and you explain how this, you know, contributes towards your answer. Let's move on to the next paragraph. What expansionary, fiscal, and monetary policies do is to raise the aggregate demand by stimulating the economy. Okay, level of aggregate demand by stimulating the economy. Okay, so if you notice, I'm still incorporating the diagram into my answer because I've shown the shift of aggregate demand stimulating the economy. Expansionary fiscal policy measures such as, okay, now this is analysis. I'm giving example. I'm not just leaving it off as expansionary fiscal policies. That is just too abstract. I'm giving examples and I'm mentioning specific policies, okay, that the government can enact. So that's analysis. Such as raising government expenditure. Can do this directly by injecting money into the economy. Lowering taxes, second. Keywords, okay, I'll mark the keywords in red. As, okay, as. Here I'm, you know, as and by. Can do this directly by injecting money into the economy. By. Okay, so this is explaining how. How is going to do it? Whenever you explain a point, ask yourself how, why, okay, and develop your answer. Whenever you develop your answer, you will be using keywords, linking words such as this: by, as, because, you know, due to, therefore, you know, all these terms are linking terms. These indicate that you are analyzing your answer now, that you are explaining now, and that earns you analysis marks. These are keywords. Alright, so that's 2 analysis marks right there. As there might be more disposable incomes and higher profits for consumers and firms respectively to spend. So this is all explanation, okay, and invest. While expansionary monetary policies may lower the interest rate, wait a second, highlighter, okay, may lower the interest rate such that less savings are done and more lending is carried out, raising expenditure. Again, expansion. How does expansionary monetary policy contribute to a higher aggregate demand? It does so by less savings and by more lending, inducing more lending. And how does aggregate demand? How is aggregate demand increased because of fiscal policy? It is increased by raising government expenditure, since injecting money into the economy. And if you remember, aggregate demand is, you know, C, consumption, plus government spending, plus investment and plus net exports. Oh god, suck at this. Seriously, I cannot type here. Actually, I cannot write here. Type. Anyway, so that's agri demand and government spending right there. This part that is increased if the government spends money, obviously, and since when you lower the taxes, you leave the people, your populace with more money. The consumption is going to go up, and that increases this part. And businesses will also have more money left if the corporation tax is reduced, and that raises investment. Net exports will be affected too in one way or another, but since the crisis is global, I'd say let's just keep it, as it is. Anyway, so see how much analysis there is in just a single paragraph. There are 4 points. Actually, there are 3 points, 3 explanations, and 1 example. So all in all, there would be, I'd say, this entire paragraph will be, could be 4 marks, could be 5 marks. I'd say I'd probably give 4, not 5, because 4 will be fine, because there's not much application here. You see, there's I haven't mentioned how this relates to the question on hand. Not much application. So I say 4 analysis,